This is TWiT.
Once upon a time, Google announced that Lenovo and HTC would be releasing the first two WorldSense-powered standalone Daydream VR headsets. But then HTC ultimately dropped out of the plans, leaving Lenovo to debut their headset, and that happened earlier this month. The Lenovo Mirage takes Google's Daydream VR platform and adds an extra layer of tracking and believability to it with WorldSense cameras that are here on front that are built into the device. I've spent some time with the Mirage Solo, and it's an important step for mobile VR, dare I say a necessary step, but it might still be just a little early. First, as you can see, it's completely standalone. And that's such a great move forward for mobile VR. A few years ago, Google revealed Daydream VR that relied on your smartphone to be both the computer and screen, an extra layer of inconvenience when all you wanted to do was jump into the game or that experience. The Lenovo Mirage Solo strips away the smartphone, integrating all components into a single headset. It's large, and actually it's pretty heavy, especially if you're wearing it for longer sessions. The strap has a knob that you can use to cinch the headset onto your forehead. And then underneath is this little button that actually shifts the mask forward or away from your face. I found that it was really hard to get a perfect fit for my head personally. I'm sure this is different for everyone. Just never sat quite right on my nose, and there was always just a little bit of light creeping in under the eyes. I think that was the biggest problem I had. But due to the WorldSense cameras, turning the lights off in my space wasn't really an option. It could actually mess with the motion tracking. Ultimately, I did get used to it, but it wasn't perfect. Now, on the side of the headset, right over here, is a power button up top, a headphone jack on the side, and then volume controls. On the other side, a USB-C charging port. Really nice to see USB-C in there, as well as a micro SD card slot, which you can use to expand the storage on the device from the built-in 64 gigs of internal storage. Inside, your eyes are staring at a 5.5-inch 2560 by 1440 display. That actually splits out to 1280 by 1440 per eye. The resolution to my eyes is pretty good, though the lenses themselves have a very specific center of focus, I thought, and it was somewhat easy for me to get kind of a blurry edge sort of feeling at times. The outer edges just kind of felt a little mushy. The chip powering all of this inside is the Qualcomm Snapdragon 835 processor. Basically, that's last year's flagship smartphone processor, but it's more than capable of driving anything that I played on the headset. Now up front, you can see two sensors. These are what drives Google's unique WorldSense tracking technology. This is basically Daydream's solution for inside-out tracking that actually eliminates the need for tracking cameras that you would position around the room, as one example. And it's nice to have that kind of tracking baked into VR experiences, but it comes with some caveats. First, developers obviously have to specifically design their experiences with that extra perspective shifting in mind. And as it is, the Daydream VR software library is kind of limited, so you're limited by that. It's even more limited when you're trying to find games that utilize this extra dimension. Now, second, the tracking is restricted to 1 square meter, which basically means you're still expected to stay in a seated position and move your head very little in any direction. You might want to move more than you're actually capable of doing with this technology. Moving too far will pause the game automatically, and you'll be told to move back into that virtual box in order to continue. So don't expect to be getting down on your knees to pick something up off the ground or look too closely at that console. The perspective shifting is neat. Don't get me wrong, but it begs for more, and at this stage, it feels like the beginnings of something potentially great. Now, the controller is pretty familiar if you've used any other Daydream controllers, although I have to point out, this is not the controller that shipped with the device. My girls at home unboxed this unbeknownst to me. I'm not sure where they put the built-in controller. Thankfully, the actual Google Daydream controller is basically the same. It's just a different color. Anyways, it's a motion-capable controller. It has a few options for control within the experience. It's all standard across Daydream devices. Nothing special to report here. Overall, this is portable VR, yes, but let's say it's a bit bulkier than what we've grown accustomed to. And let's be real, there's good reason for that extra bulk inside here. Everything you need is contained within this hardware. Honestly, this is the future of VR, standalone experiences that don't require a smartphone or a tether to a computer. But at this stage, this really does feel like early days. I'm happy it exists. and I prefer it over smartphone VR, but at a whopping $400 for the headset, it's kind of hard to recommend that consumers rush out to buy one right now. For the app and game library that's available at this point, it's a bitter pill to swallow at that price. But I have no doubt that this is a big stepping stone that brings us closer to an even more fully featured, perhaps room-scaled, inside-out tracking-capable VR system by Google down the line. In many ways, it's very similar to Facebook's recently announced Oculus Go headset, so Google has good company. I'm just excited to see where it leads to more than I am where it's at right now. I'm Jason Howell, and you can catch me on Tech News Weekly, all about Android, and very often right here on the new screensavers for TWiT.tv.